Hey guys, it's Adam with Unleashed Wargaming. I want to do a little, number one, a tactics review. Number two, if you can hear all this noise and my ambiance, I am outside today. Decided to come outside and enjoy the 92-degree weather and do a recording. So I apologize if it mutes me out any, but the cicadas are loud. Anyway, just do a little review over some tactics that a lot of people think don't exist, and the more I see it, I've only played one. I've gone through some little scenarios, read a lot, watched a lot of reports, and in that little bit I'm already seeing tactics unfold, and a lot of people are giving opinions saying, oh, that's just chance, that's not tactics. But I mean, really, everything in 8th edition, when you roll dice, you're taking chances. Sure, there's tactics, but you move up there and you're 4 inches away and you go to charge. Well, I mean, you roll 2 1s, you're not gonna make it. You know, you're taking a chance always. So let's leave out the chance versus tactics, because in a game where you're rolling dice, yeah, you can have strategy, but the dice can always mess it up. It's like the twist on the proverb says, "Man decides his path, and God always laughs at them." But yeah, looking at the rules, first of all, it has been cleared up to me. I had totally missed where it says that you cannot re-roll more than once, and I'm really glad to see that, because that's not something I would ever do, even if it wasn't in the rules. But I had seen someone else's video where they said it's not in there, and the first page of the rules is mostly about scenery and setup and all that, so I kind of skipped over to the rules part, the second, third, and fourth page, hence why I say a 3-page rule book. But yeah, I'm glad that was pointed out to me. I went back and looked at it, and yeah, it's good. I'm glad that's there. Also, if you don't subscribe to some of the others, I'll go ahead and say that in the Glorious Victory section down at the bottom, I put in a previous video that rules as written, if you wanted to go strict on these rules that are written in this book, anytime you summon models, they're automatically considered dead at the end of the game, even if they live. Because it says models summoned do not count towards the number of models in the army, but must be counted among casualties an army suffers. So it's worded to say, even if you summon them and they live the whole time, they're still dead at the end. They count as dead, like a penalty for summoning them. But I had some people say that in the German and other translations, it does say models that have been summoned, if they are slain during battle, count as casualties. And I guess I'm glad to see that too. I liked the aspect of there being a penalty to summon, so that I hear these people with these gimmicky things of, I'm going to leave Nagash in the back and just summon 6 units a turn. And I was thinking, hey, you know what, there's some balance, because if he does that, he just loses, period. But still, if he summons up 10 skeletons and you kill 10 skeletons, that's a good enough penalty for me. So I guess I'm glad to see that. Other than that, I'll move on into the tactics side of it. And I'm only going to go over a couple. I'm not by any means an expert on this game. I don't think anyone is yet. It hasn't been out long enough. The only people who I think claim to be experts are the ones that hate it and quit the day it came out. And when I've actually gone back and watched some of those reports where they complained so heavily about the lack of rules and how easy it is to gimmick and cheat. Well, if you're going to gimmick and cheat, or not even cheat because there's no rules for it, if you're going to be gimmicky and all that stuff, then you weren't trying to have a good time anyway. But if you they complain about the rules and how the rules don't cover all these things, and they do. They do. I watched those reports again, and they did it wrong. I mean, you are doing it wrong. So I wish they would go back and try to enjoy it. Forget that we dropped from 500 pages to 4, but and just try it. Try and make it fun, all that stuff. Work out a comp. They complain about tournaments. You'll never see this in tournaments. Yeah, we will. The tournaments, like I heard Once Bitten say, this is like a dream come true for him because he enjoys comp on tournaments. And so you are going to see the tournaments. People are going to make this work, and they're going to comp it. They're going to make their tournament rules, and you're going to show it. Like I've seen people say, as far as troops go, this type of troop, you can bring 3 war scrolls, no more than 30 models, no less than 10. All right, and you can only bring this many of that scroll. So there's ways to comp it. They say you can only bring 2 war scrolls with the word monster in it. All right, well, there you're taking out the thing where you're going to show up against 10 dragons and then get a 1/3 bonus because there's only 10 of them and you brought 30 models. So you're not. There's ways to comp this, and you can play it however you want to. In fact, I'll move on into the strategies. The 1/3 thing, it's not just if your opponent happens to show up with 1,000 models and you only had 50. They're not just giving you a break. You could use that as a strategy. Let's say that I challenge you to a game and I'm going to comp it. And you can bring 2 war scrolls with up to 30 models each, 1 monster, and then 2 of this other kind of scroll with 10 models out of that one because they're so whatever. And then I use the same comp. Well, let's say you max it out and you bring all that stuff, and I purposely, as a strategy, bring 1/3 of your army. Well, yeah, I'm outnumbered and all that stuff, but I just planned a strategy using the sudden death, and it could very well be. People might say it's cheesy, but I might bring things that are just excellent at sniping a character, or really good at bringing down a monster. I might bring something like that, 1/3 of your army. Yeah, I'm guessing you may only bring 2/3 of what you can, but if I show up and you maxed out, I may just roll in there and get a sudden death victory. Maybe it's not fun, but it's a strategy that you have to be careful and watch out for. Another thing with this stuff is the initiative, and that is huge. The initiative steps of going back and forth. I heard today, I watched a battle report from William Page, and I'm glad to see he's doing the reports now and enjoying it. And he said, never charge in groups, even numbers. And at first I thought, that's not right. But then he had a good point, and that's actually happened to me in my game with my ogres versus dark elves. If you haven't seen it, if you charge with even numbers, you're giving your opponent a chance to strike first in one of the 2 combats. If you charge with 1 and it's your turn, it has to be your turn if you're charging. But if you charge in there, you get to choose that combat. Say, my guys are going to strike first, and they're just going to, like my Iron Guts, obliterated 21 Blackguard with 1 turn. Well, I also charged with my Bulls, and my Bulls got into the combat with the Executioners. But since her Blackguard were gone, she didn't have to choose them to fight back. I mean, she wouldn't have to anyway, but she chose to fight with her Executioners first, and did 10 wounds, killed 2 of them, and 1 of them was half dead before they even got to swing. So really, but then again, you got to think, what's the alternative? If I hadn't charged with those Bulls, then in her turn, she would have been free to charge my Iron Guts in the flank, and then chosen to strike first with them. And I say flanks don't matter, but she would have had a chance to go in there and strike first, and she might have killed half of them. So, there's strategy and choices to make. This isn't, one of my clients that I paint for said there's no more strategy in this game than going outside with your hand in the shape of a gun saying, bang, bang, I got you. And the more I look at it, the more and more strategy I'm seeing unfold out of these 4 pages of rules. And if that was done intentionally through playtesting and all that, I give Games Workshop a lot of credit for dumbing a game down from 500 rules to 500 pages to 4 and making it work. Again, with that initiative step, in 8th edition, and again, people say, I had somebody say this, I moved up my ogres to a point to where in her turn, in my opponent's turn, if she moved up her full distance and then attempted to charge, she would need a 10 on the dice. And my hopes was she would move up her full distance, her 6 inches, fail her charge, and then be 10 inches away from me. At least, 10 inches, yeah. So then I would move forward my 6 inches in my turn and charge her and only need a 4 on the dice. That was my intentions, just like 8th edition. That was my old 8th edition Warhammer thinking. Get to where she has a charge, but it's hard for her. Okay? Well, I moved up. She went first. Then I moved up to where I was giving her a 10-inch charge. Well, lo and behold, we roll the dice. I win the initiative, and it's my turn. So I basically set it up to where if I move my full distance, I have a 10-inch charge. So by trying to set that up, now in this particular game, I actually rolled a 10 on the first charge and an 11 on the second charge, so they both got in. But that's kind of extraordinary. If my planning hadn't worked, I would have moved forward, done my little thing to set her up on a trick or a trap, whatever, and then it goes right back to my turn, and I would be the one moving up, failing charges, and she would be easily charging me. So that's something else you got to take into consideration. Had someone else say that's just chance, that's not strategy. You're just going up there hoping that a 50-50 chance you're going to get to go again. But it's no different than in Warhammer. There's no difference. I mean, in battle, you don't take turns. It's going crazy, back and forth, like the maelstrom of war. It's back and forth. You don't know what your opponent's going to do. It's not like, okay, they're going to shoot, but now it's our turn. So, hey, aim carefully and do a good job, because everyone you don't kill is going to have a turn to shoot back at us. It's all going crazy. You don't know what they're going to do or when they're going to do it. And so when I move forward to charge, let's say, hey, let's pull forward, get close enough to where we can sound this charge and go running in, and then all of a sudden they countercharge. That makes kind of sense, Or maybe if I win initiative twice in a row, like it's her turn, then it's my turn, then I win initiative and go a second time, maybe they were caught off guard or they had a plan and I moved up and then completed a charge. It makes sense. There is a strategic value to it. And I think people are missing that because they're so negative on this game. They're just going, oh, you get to go twice in a row, that's lame. Well, that just means your opponent has a chance to go twice in a row next if she wins initiative or he wins initiative, whatever. So there's a lot to this. Battle shock, I'm going to move to the battle shock. I hear people saying, people with multiple wounds, for instance, my ogres. They say people with multiple wounds, like ogres, they have a huge advantage because if I run up in there, like in this game, let's see if I'm hoping I'm going to have the pictures up at the right time with this. I run up into this combat. She did 10 wounds to me. All right, but only 2 models died. Now I did 7 wounds and 7 models died. So her battle shock, as far as it looks initially, because battle shock says models removed from play, not wounds done, but models removed. She did 3 wounds more than me, and yet my battle shock, I'm only adding 2. Only adding 2 to the dice, where she's adding 7. So it looks like she has a horrible chance of losing more models than me. But if you think about it, she did 5 wounds, and if I had rolled a 6 instead of like I rolled I think I rolled like a 1 or a 2 and I was okay. I lost 2 models. If I rolled a 6, that goes to an 8. My leadership or my bravery on them was 6, I believe, and that means 2 more ogres would have died, and that's 8 wounds taken. That's 8 wounds that I would have lost because I'm an ogre, because it doesn't say in Battle Shock you remove this many wounds for every point you lost. It says that many models. So yeah, there's a lot of situations where it would seem like the 1 wound enemies are at a disadvantage, but one bad roll and I could have lost an entire unit of ogres here. And where if she has a big block of 30 troops, she's only going to lose a few, and I'm losing 10 wounds or 4 wounds every time an ogre dies. So I don't think that's a real negative either. Yeah, I think this game has a lot more to offer than what we're giving it, or than what a lot of people are giving it. I think it's great. I love the fact that when you get into the combat phase, you choose. For instance, I choose a combat and my unit fights. Well, she doesn't have to fight back with that unit. She can jump over to another unit and hit me over there. So I know when her witch elves charged my Stonehorn, well, right on the other side of the table, I had ogres in combat with their executioners. And so it was kind of like we were looking at it, and I was thinking, your executioners might lop those lop those ogres' heads off and finish that combat. But if I get to go first, that's 6 attacks doing 2 wounds each, and they could do some serious damage. But on the flip side, her witch elves were up against my Stonehorn, and he was still ripping and roaring. He was still pretty strong, and he could have taken out 11 or 12 of them. So she had to go with that first and try and kill it, knowing good and well that I could go first in the other combat. That's a cool strategy too, because if you're in trouble, you could charge something into a unit just to force your opponent to make that decision to save your other unit. Again, more strategy coming out of these 4 pages that everyone's hating so much. I hate the magic phase. It's almost useless unless your army specific has some good spells or something. Yeah, whatever. The last thing I want to do, I want to talk about the product review of Games Workshop real quick. Not the game. There's a lot of that going around. The app. I downloaded the app today, and I haven't spent a lot of time looking in there. It's a free app, which I appreciate. It's very strange being from Games Workshop and free, but it's cool. Got a lot of cool graphics in it anyway. It's got the rule book in there, and that's all really cool. I didn't see really an easy way to navigate through the War Scrolls, but it may be operator error because I haven't spent a lot of time in it. However, I went onto their website on my iPhone, and I went to War Scrolls, and on every one of them, you could open it up, of course, and look through it, but when I opened them, it would say open with iBooks at the top, a little option, and you had to hit it pretty quick because it goes away, but I would hit that, it would open in an iBooks, and it saved every one of them in my iBooks, so I now have every one of the War Scrolls, or Army books, whatever you want to call them, on my iPhone in iBooks, and I don't have to open that app and scroll through and try and find it. I can open each individual book. It shows every page of that book across the bottom. You can touch it and jump from page 1 to page 30 if you need to, and that's really cool. So and I'm pretty sure it'll work on an Android as well, or Droid. So if you don't like the app or don't like what you're doing, get it into your Kindle app or your Amazon app or whatever reader you're using. I'm using iBooks. It just happened to throw it in there for me. But that's really cool because I've been going to Staples and having them print it all out and bind it and stuff to make books. But this is really easy to just sit there and flip through the pages and jump back and forth through all the book real quick. So yeah, that's about it, guys. I just wanted to give you another thing. Maybe if you hadn't thought of those things, it's something to think on and try in your next game. Taking 1/3 of the troops may be risky, but hey, you know what? If your opponent picks a character, there's no meat shield anymore. There's no rules for joining a character to a unit that I have seen. So unless let's say they take that character and they stick him back behind a unit and don't use it. Well, guess what? You just took a character out of the game, if nothing else. Or what if it's a monster? If they don't have a character they can opt to leave out of the game and they put it on a monster, well, there's a good chance that monster's not going to come forward and do anything because they're afraid of your sudden death victory. So that's all I guess I wanted to point out. There are some strategies that I haven't seen people necessarily talking about. Some of them people are calling chance, and they're no more chance than 8th edition was. But try them out, check it out, check out the app, see if you like it, and if you see an easy way to navigate, maybe throw it in the comments and give me a tip, because I haven't spent a lot of time in it after I got them all in my iBooks. That was really cool. And do that. If you don't like the app, don't give up on it. Try doing that. Try going to their website, clicking download, and then installing it into your iBooks or Kindle or whatever. Because I tell you what, I want to try. I have 7 armies, and I want to try them out, but I don't want to go spend $50 at Staples having pages printed and then another 15 to 20 having them bound. So it's going to save me a lot of time and effort, and hopefully it'll save you a lot of time and effort too. That's it for now. Thanks for listening, and subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you the next go. Should have a battle report up again this week.